Walt was doing everything his cardiologist told him to do. He'd thrown out the table salt, switched to the pink shaker on the counter that promised heart-healthy, salt-free, and he felt good about it. 6 weeks later, his daughter walked into the kitchen and found him on the floor, confused, his pulse slow and stumbling. By the time he reached my emergency room, his blood potassium was 6.8, a number high enough to stop a human heart mid-beat. And the thing that drove it that high wasn't a cheeseburger. It wasn't a pill he forgot. It was the healthy salt he'd been sprinkling on his food to protect himself. I want you to sit with that for a second. Because if a doctor has ever said anything about your kidneys, a creatinine creeping past 1.2, an eGFR slipping under 60, a lab result with the word borderline sitting next to it, then Walt's kitchen is not a stranger's kitchen. It's a preview. The most dangerous things for a struggling kidney almost never look dangerous. They look responsible. They look exactly like the careful choices a person makes when they're finally trying to do right by their body. So here's what I'm going to do for you in the next few minutes. And stay with me, because the mistake that put Walt on my floor is one most kidney videos never even mention. I'm going to give you the 5 vegetables I would put on the plate of almost anyone with early kidney trouble, ranked, with the real reason behind each one. Then I'm going to give you the 3 preparation traps that can quietly turn any of those healthy vegetables into a problem, ranked from most dangerous to least. And I'll tell you now, vegetable number 3 is going to surprise you, because most people have been warned to avoid it. And for your kidneys, they've got it backwards. I work in emergency medicine. I'm not the doctor who meets your kidneys on a good day. I'm the one who meets them at the far end, when the potassium is too high, when years of pressure have finally caught up, when the quiet early warnings got brushed off as just getting older. And here's what watching that far end has taught me. The people who do best are almost never the ones who did something dramatic. They're the ones who noticed early and made a few small changes actually stick. That's all this is. No miracle, no 3-day flush, no powder you order at midnight. Just the honest daily work, grounded in what the CDC, the National Kidney Foundation, and the kidney researchers at the National Institutes of Health actually show. And that ground is more solid than any gimmick. Before I name the first vegetable, give me 90 seconds, because once you can see how a kidney really works, every single choice on this list will make sense on its own, and you'll never look at your dinner plate the same way. That creatinine number on your report is just waste. Every time a muscle contracts, every step you take, every time you push up out of a chair, it burns a little fuel and leaves a little rubble behind. Creatinine is that rubble. It drifts around in your blood until your kidneys strain it out and send it down to your bladder. Each kidney does that straining through roughly 1 million microscopic filters, and those filters have a name worth learning because it's the hero of this whole story. Nephrons. Picture a nephron as a tiny sieve with an even tinier blood vessel wrapped snugly around it. Now, years of high blood pressure, high blood sugar, and low-grade inflammation slowly clog and scar those sieves. Fewer working filters means the rubble clears more slowly, so it starts to back up. Your creatinine climbs from 1.2 toward 1.5 and beyond, while your eGFR, which is really just an estimate of how fast those filters are still moving, drifts the other way, down. Here is the part that hands you the controls, and I need you to hear it. Because this is where fear turns into something you can actually use. That number isn't only a report card on damage already done. It also answers to 2 things sitting right there on your own dinner plate. 1, how much waste and salt you're asking those tired filters to process every single day. 2, how much fresh damage they take from high pressure and constant inflammation. Lower the first, calm the second, and you take real load off a system that's been running overtime for years. Every vegetable I'm about to name pulls one of those 2 levers. Less burden going in, less damage at the filter. That's the whole game. And your fork gets a vote. Vegetable number 1 is red cabbage, and I want you to notice the word red, because here the color is the medicine. That deep violet comes from a pigment family called anthocyanins, and they are some of the most powerful antioxidants you can eat. Here's why a tired kidney cares. A struggling kidney lives under constant oxidative stress, and the simplest way to picture that is rust. Unstable molecules called free radicals corrode your cells, and in a damaged kidney, that corrosion runs fast, scarring a few more filters every year. Anthocyanins are the rust inhibitor. They step in, neutralize those free radicals, and slow the corrosion, which buys the nephrons you still have more time on the job. But the honest reason I reach for red cabbage before almost anything else is the numbers that actually govern a kidney diet. It's naturally low in potassium, roughly 100 milligrams in a half cup, and it's low in phosphorus and sodium too. If you're in stage 3, that combination is gold, because damaged kidneys slowly lose the ability to clear extra potassium and phosphorus, and when those minerals rise too high, they stiffen your blood vessels and unsettle your heart's rhythm. That is exactly the cliff Walt went over. So red cabbage hands you a serious antioxidant in a package that's gentle on the very minerals you're fighting to hold down. On top of that, it brings vitamin C, vitamin K, and a good dose of fiber. And the cruciferous family it belongs to carries sulfur compounds that help switch on your body's own cleanup enzymes. How you eat it decides whether any of that survives. Raw is best. Shred it thin into a slaw because raw cabbage keeps the vitamin C and the pigment intact. Dress it lightly, olive oil, a squeeze of lemon, a crack of black pepper. If you'd rather cook it, keep it fast in a hot pan so it still has some snap. And here's the trap, because it's a common one. The bottled dressing and the store-bought sauerkraut. Both bury a low-sodium food under a mountain of salt and quietly undo the entire point. Keep it simple, keep it colorful, and let the red do its work. Vegetable number 2 is one I recommend to nearly every kidney patient at nearly every stage, and it's cauliflower. It looks forgettable in the produce aisle, pale and plain next to the bright vegetables, but for your kidneys, it's a quiet workhorse. Start with the numbers, because they're excellent. Cauliflower is low in potassium, around 150 milligrams in a half cup, and low in phosphorus and sodium. And it's rich in vitamin C and folate, which matters more than it sounds because people on a restricted kidney diet often run short on exactly those water-soluble vitamins that get washed out along the way. Then there's what cauliflower carries under the hood. Like red cabbage, it's cruciferous, and it's loaded with compounds your body converts into something called sulforaphane. Sulforaphane is one of the most studied anti-inflammatory compounds in the entire vegetable world, and researchers have looked hard at how it flips on your body's own internal defense and repair pathways. For a kidney fighting low-grade inflammation year after year, that's real support. And it's pulling that second lever I told you about, the one that slows fresh damage at the filter. But here's where cauliflower quietly becomes a secret weapon. It's the great substitute. If mashed potatoes are off your plate because of their potassium and you genuinely miss them, steam a head of cauliflower and mash it up, and you get that same warm, creamy comfort carrying only a small fraction of the mineral load. And that matters more than any nutrient on the label. Because I'll tell you the number one reason people abandon a kidney diet. It isn't willpower. It's that they feel starved and punished. A food that tastes like a treat but behaves like medicine is the thing that keeps you on the plan long enough for it to work. Steam it, or roast it in the oven with olive oil and herbs until the edges go golden. The mistake I see constantly is drowning it in cheese sauce because cheese is heavy in both phosphorus and sodium, the two minerals you're working to keep down. So a healthy vegetable becomes a problem in one pour. Skip the cheese, reach for garlic and herbs instead. Which is the perfect handoff because vegetable number 3 is garlic. And I can already hear the objection because I hear it in the emergency department all the time. Doesn't garlic thin the blood? Isn't anything that sharp and pungent rough on struggling kidneys? Wasn't I told to keep my distance from it? Stay with me, because this is exactly the kind of half-truth that talks careful, sensible people out of one of the best things they could do for their blood pressure. Here's the real story. The warnings you've heard are about garlic supplements, the high-dose capsules and concentrated pills that in large amounts can interact with blood-thinning medication. That caution is real. And if you're on a blood thinner, run any supplement past your doctor first. But whole garlic, the real clove you smash into a hot pan, is a completely different animal. When you crush or chop a fresh clove, it releases a sulfur compound called allicin. And allicin is where garlic's power lives. One of its quiet effects is a gentle downward nudge on your blood pressure. Now lean in here, because this is the link hardly anyone spells out for you. According to the CDC, high blood pressure is one of the 2 leading causes of kidney failure in this country, the other being diabetes. Every time your pressure runs high, it hammers on the delicate little blood vessels feeding those filters and wears them out faster. So anything that eases your blood pressure is protecting your kidneys at the exact level that matters most. Garlic nudges in the right direction, and it does something just as valuable that has nothing to do with chemistry. It makes food taste good without salt. When you cook with real garlic, you reach for the shaker far less, and cutting sodium is one of the single most powerful moves a kidney patient can make. That's what using it correctly means. Crush a fresh clove, let it sit about 10 minutes before it hits the heat so the allicin fully forms, and use it generously in place of salt. Just dodge the 2 traps. Trap 1 is garlic salt, which is mostly sodium wearing a garlic costume. Trap 2 is those high-dose supplement pills, especially if you're on a blood thinner. The clove, not the capsule. Quick breath before number 4, because you've earned a reminder of where we're going. The first 3 vegetables work on inflammation and blood pressure. The last 2 round out the protection. And then I'm going to hand you the 3 preparation traps, the ones that can undo everything, including the one that put Walt in my ER. That's coming. Stay with me. Vegetable number 4 is the one kidney dietitians genuinely celebrate, the red bell pepper. If you've ever been handed a kidney diet sheet, you know most of it is a long list of foods to avoid. The red bell pepper is one of the rare items that lands on the yes column in bold. The reason is potassium, or really, the lack of it. It's low in potassium, low in sodium, and low in phosphorus. For someone who's constantly being told no, here's a sweet, crunchy, satisfying vegetable that is a clear, guilt-free yes. And it deserves that place for more than being gentle. Few vegetables on this entire list are as loaded with vitamins. It carries an enormous amount of vitamin C, more by weight than an orange, plus vitamin A, vitamin B6, and folate. That brilliant red, just like the cabbage, comes from antioxidant pigments, including lycopene and beta-carotene, which fight the very same oxidative rust that scars your nephrons. So you're getting real antioxidant protection in a food your kidneys barely have to work to handle. It's also the easiest vegetable here to actually eat, and that counts, because the best kidney food in the world is the one you'll keep reaching for. Slice it into strips and keep it at eye level in the fridge for an afternoon snack instead of crackers. Roast it into your eggs. Chop it raw into that cabbage slaw from earlier. The trap is the same villain we keep meeting. The jarred, roasted peppers sitting in salty brine and the pre-marinated ones from the deli case. The sodium in those is enormous. Buy them whole, buy them fresh, and prepare them yourself, so you're the one who controls the salt. Vegetable number 5 is asparagus, and it brings your kidneys something none of the others do quite as well. Asparagus is one of the richest food sources of a compound called glutathione, often called the body's master antioxidant, because your cells use it to clean up damage everywhere, including deep inside the kidney. When you eat asparagus, you're handing your body more of the raw material it uses for its own deepest repair work. It also works as a mild natural diuretic, which just means it coaxes your body into letting go of a bit of extra fluid and moving things along. And for anyone carrying mild puffiness, that can feel genuinely good. And it carries a special prebiotic fiber called inulin, which is food for the friendly bacteria living in your gut. That link deserves more attention than it usually gets because a well-fed gut throws off fewer of the waste byproducts your kidneys would otherwise be stuck straining out. Less waste manufactured inside you means less work at the filter. But asparagus comes with one honest footnote, and I wouldn't be doing my job if I skipped it. It's moderate in potassium, around 200 milligrams in a half cup, and it contains natural compounds called purines. For most people earlier in kidney disease, in a normal portion, that's completely fine, and the benefits are well worth it. But if you have gout, or you're in advanced kidney disease heading toward stage 4 or 5, those are the two situations where you'll want to hold the portion small and clear it with your kidney doctor before you lean on it. For nearly everyone else watching, asparagus has earned a place on your plate this week. Steam it, roast it, or grill it with a little olive oil and, you guessed it, fresh garlic. The one mistake that ruins it? Canned asparagus, which swims in sodium, fresh or frozen only. Now we've arrived at the part I promised you at the very start, the traps. The part most videos skip, and honestly the part that may matter more than the vegetable list itself. Because here's the hard truth I watch play out over and over in the ER. You can buy every vegetable I just named, fill your fridge with them, eat them every day, and still hurt your kidneys if you prepare them wrong. So let me rank these mistakes the way I'd triage them, from most dangerous to least. The most dangerous by a wide margin is the one from Walt's Kitchen, the salt substitute. So many people trying to do the right thing throw out their table salt and grab something labeled light salt, no salt, or potassium salt, thinking they've made the healthy choice. For a kidney patient, that swap can be genuinely dangerous. And here is the reason. Those products replace sodium with potassium chloride. And by now that word potassium should stop you cold. Your damaged kidneys already struggle to clear potassium, so pouring more in from a shaker can push your blood level past 5.0, past 5.5, into the zone where it disturbs the electrical rhythm of your heart. That's not a scare story. That's a slow pulse on my ER floor. The National Kidney Foundation warns about this directly. So, if you take one single thing from today, take this. Do not use a salt substitute unless your kidney doctor has specifically told you to and is checking your potassium with blood tests. Not because a shaker is evil, but because it's the one healthy-looking choice that can land you in the emergency room. The second trap is sodium hiding in plain sight. Here's a number that stops people cold. The average American takes in around 3,400 milligrams of sodium a day, and the American Heart Association says most adults should stay under 2,300, with an ideal closer to 1,500 for those with high blood pressure. You can take the healthiest vegetable on earth and blow right past those numbers with soy sauce, bottled dressing, canned versions, and seasoning blends that are mostly salt. Sodium raises your blood pressure, and high pressure is the exact thing chewing up your filters. It also makes you hold fluid, which is why your ankles swell and the scale jumps overnight. And here's a reversal worth sitting with, because a lot of you have heard of the DASH diet as heart healthy. It is. But classic DASH is deliberately high in potassium, so for advanced kidney disease, it can be the wrong tool. The lesson isn't that any one plan is magic. It's that your kidney numbers, not a headline, decide what's right for you. Flavor your food with garlic, herbs, lemon, pepper, and vinegar instead, and give it a few weeks. Your taste buds genuinely recalibrate, and you stop missing the salt. The third trap is a misunderstanding about boiling. There's a real technique called leaching, where you boil certain high-potassium vegetables and pour the water off to pull some potassium out. That's useful for some foods. But the 5 on today's list already start low in potassium, so boiling them into submission backfires. A long, hard boil leaches out the vitamin C and wrecks the very color pigments and the glutathione you paid for, the anthocyanins that make the cabbage worth eating in the first place. So treat these 5 gently. A fast steam, a hot roast, a quick sauté, or simply raw. Don't reduce them to gray mush, and never pour that leftover cooking liquid back over your plate as a sauce thinking you're rescuing nutrients. For a high-potassium dish, that water is exactly what you meant to throw away. And while we're on the subject of what people get backwards, let me settle the water question, because it's the one I'm asked most, and the advice online is a mess. For most people early in kidney disease, steady, modest hydration through the day is a quiet kindness to your filters. It keeps the waste moving instead of concentrating. But more is not better. And this is where the internet gets dangerous. If your kidneys are further along, or you're already retaining fluid, drowning yourself in water can overload a system that can't offload it, and that shows up as swelling and breathlessness. So the honest answer isn't a magic number of glasses, it's this. Sip steadily rather than gulping. Let the color of your urine be a rough guide toward pale, not clear. And if you have any swelling, or you're in stage 4 or beyond, ask your kidney team what your daily target should be, rather than guessing. Now I want to give you something most of these videos never do, because knowing what to eat is only half of taking back control. You also need to know your own numbers, so let me make them simple. When you pull your last lab report, look for 2 things. The first is your eGFR. If it sits between 60 and 89 with signs of kidney damage, that's stage 2. Between 45 and 59 is stage 3A. Between 30 and 44 is stage 3B. You don't need to memorize the whole ladder, you just need to know which rung you're on, because that's what tells you how careful to be with potassium and portions. The second number is the one most people have never heard of, and it's the reason foamy urine matters. Ask your doctor for a urine albumin test, sometimes written as a urine albumin to creatinine ratio. Albumin is a protein that healthy filters keep in your blood. When it starts leaking into your urine, it can froth, and it's often one of the earliest whispers that the filters are straining, sometimes before your creatinine has moved at all. So if you've been seeing foam in the bowl, that's not something to Google at 2 a.m. and panic over. It's a specific, cheap test to request at your next visit. 2 numbers, eGFR and urine albumin. Write them down today, and you've turned a scary lab report into a dashboard you can actually read. Let me put a face on all of this, because I don't want to leave you in the mechanics. A woman I'll call Diane came into a clinic I was covering, 69 years old, a retired bookkeeper from Des Moines. Her creatinine had crept to 1.5, her eGFR had slipped to 51, stage 3A, and her regular doctor had said the words chronic kidney disease out loud for the first time. She was frightened, and she was eating the way most of us eat, heavy on salt, heavy on the packaged stuff, almost no real vegetables on the plate. She did not do anything dramatic. She didn't buy a single supplement. Over about 6 months, she just worked these changes in. Red cabbage and red bell pepper sliced and waiting in the fridge for snacks. Cauliflower mashed instead of potatoes. Garlic in everything in place of the shaker. Asparagus a couple of nights a week. She stopped using her salt substitute the day someone finally explained what it was. She cut the canned and the processed. When her labs came back, her blood pressure had come down, and her creatinine had settled, drifting from 1.5 back toward 1.3, with her eGFR holding steady instead of sliding. Now I want to be honest with you about what that means, because I will never sell you a fairy tale. Her kidneys were not cured. The damage already done did not disappear. What changed is that she took the burden off, eased the pressure, and gave the filters she still had a fighting chance to hold the line. For a woman who walked in terrified, that stability was everything. And it's the realistic goal for most of you watching. Not reversal, holding the line, and holding it for years. But I have to draw one clear boundary. because food is support and it never replaces a doctor. Some signs are not vegetable problems. If your creatinine is climbing fast, if you're suddenly making far less urine than normal, if your legs and face are swelling, or if you feel short of breath, deeply confused, or exhausted in a way that scares you, those are not things to manage with a grocery list. Write down what you're feeling and when it started, and call your primary care doctor to be seen this week. If it's swelling with real breathlessness or a heartbeat that feels fast and chaotic, don't wait. Get to an urgent care or an emergency room the same day. And if you feel your heart racing or fluttering along with weakness or near fainting, call 911. And do not drive yourself because a dangerous potassium rhythm can drop you without warning. If you're already on dialysis or in stage 4 or 5, every food choice, including these 5, needs to be dialed in with your kidney team, because at that stage your potassium and phosphorus ceilings sit lower than almost anyone else's. These vegetables are the floor of good care. They are never the whole of it. So let me compress this whole thing into something you can carry out of here in one breath. Your kidney number answers to 2 levers: the burden you send in, and the damage at the filter. Eat the color and skip the salt. Red cabbage, cauliflower, garlic, red bell pepper, asparagus, prepared light, not boiled and not buried in sodium. Fear the pink shaker more than you fear a steak, because the salt substitute is the healthy-looking choice most likely to land you in my ER. And know your 2 numbers, eGFR and urine albumin. If you remember nothing else, remember this. The body usually whispers before it screams, and your kidneys whisper. In foam, in fatigue, in a lab number nudging up. The people who do best are the ones who listen early. Here's your one job this week, and it's small on purpose because you do not need perfection here. You need the next useful step. On your next grocery run, buy all 5 before anything processed goes in the cart. Tonight, wash a red cabbage and a red pepper, slice them, and put them at eye level in the fridge so they're the easy thing to grab. And at your next appointment, ask for those 2 numbers, your eGFR and a urine albumin test, and write them down so that in 3 months you can actually see whether the work is paying off. That's it. That's the whole assignment. If someone you love has been staring at a scary kidney number with nobody to explain it, send them this, because the salt substitute warning alone could change how their next year goes. And if you want the natural other half of this, I made a video on the everyday foods marketed as healthy that are quietly straining your filters. Foods millions of people over 60 eat believing they're doing the right thing. It's right here on the screen, and I'll see you there.